use his children when no one else is willing or able to do his work. Kids have more pure faith in Jesus than adults don't have. They can get away with doing things that adults cannot do. Kids are more likely to serve God out of pure, unselfish faith, and all the honor and glory would go to him because kids cannot do it on their own. The first person that I want to talk about today is King David and his three friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. When they were young, their parents taught them about the Bible to love and respect God. Then King Nebuchadnezzar sent his army to Daniel's home and took the treasures and some people away. Then Daniel and his three friends were taken too. When they got there, the king looked at some boys and decided to put some in the royal school for 3 years so they can join the royal court. Daniel and his three friends were chosen to be in the royal school. And when they got there, they found out that the meat was unhealthy and there was wine. And it was also offered to idols. So Daniel went to the god Belshazzar and asked if he could drink water and have fruits, grains, and vegetables instead of the king's food. Then the god said that stuff would make you weak and sick, and the king would be really mad. So Daniel said we could try it for just 10 days. And when the 10 days are up, if we are sick or weak of hunger, we will eat the king's food. So the god agreed. When the 10 days were up, Daniel and his three friends were stronger and healthier than all the other boys in the school. So the god continued to let them eat fruits, grains, vegetables, and drink water. When the 3 years were up, the god and the king tested them and the other boys in the school. And Daniel and his three friends were 10 times smarter than the other wise men and advisors in his court.
Amen.
Daniel and his three friends learned that if you obey God, that he will reward you. You will be healthier and smarter if you didn't. And the next person that I want to talk about is David. When David was young, he was a shepherd that looked over his father's sheep. He defended them against a lion and a bear. Then a war started between the Philistines and the Israelites. And some of David's brothers went out to the war. And Jesse, David's father, decided to send David with supplies to his brothers. So David set out to the camp. And when David got there, he heard the giant Philistine named Goliath shouting and demanding the Israelites to send a man. They would battle. Whoever lost would become the other army's slaves. So David tried to encourage the people to stand up and fight back, but no one would. So he went to King Saul and said he was the one who would fight. First, King Saul thought that David was too small and young to fight Goliath. Then finally David convinced King Saul that he was strong enough with God's help. So King Saul said that he could fight, but he still tried to give Daniel his armor and David his armor and his sword. But the armor and sword was too heavy, so he left it behind. He took his sling and his pouch, went out to a stream, picked up 5 smooth stones, put them in his pouch, and went out to Goliath. When Goliath seen him, he was mad, because a little boy would be the only one who would fight him. So Goliath threw his spear at David, but it missed. So he started charging at David furiously. Then David took a stone, put it in his sling, and swung his sling around and around. He let it go just at the right moment. The stone hit Goliath in the head and sunk in his head and knocked him out. Then David ran up and cut off his head. And then David became king after Saul. The next person I want to talk about is Samuel. When Hannah, Samuel's mother, could not have children. So she prayed to God and asked him to give her a son. So God decided that she could have a son. And right when Samuel was old enough, he was given back to the Lord and taken to the temple. And Hannah gave Samuel to Eli, and Eli took care of him. Once a year, Hannah would come back with a new coat for Samuel. And Eli had 2 sons of his own. They were wicked and evil, and soon eventually died. But somehow Samuel was still being raised by Eli, and he still loved and obeyed God. Then one night Samuel heard a voice calling him. So he went to Eli to ask what he wanted. And Eli sent him back to bed, because Eli said he didn't call him and sent him back to bed. A second time, Samuel was called. So he went back to Eli and asked what he wanted. And then again, Eli sent him back to bed. A third time, Samuel was called, and he went back to Eli. Eli said, "This time if he hears the voice again, say, 'Speak, Lord, your servant heareth.'" So a fourth time, Samuel went back to bed. And a fourth time, he heard the voice. This time, he said, "Speak, Lord, your servant heareth." Then the Lord told him that Samuel is a bad name because he did not help his sons, and they were wicked and evil. So in the morning, Eli asked Samuel what he had heard. At first, Samuel didn't want to say because what God had told him, Eli did not want to hear. But Eli said that he would know if Samuel was not telling the truth. So Samuel told him. Some ways that kids were used to help spread the gospel when Jesus was on earth was a child. Jesus was teaching all day, teaching these people all day. And none of them had eaten, and it was way past time to eat. So the disciples told Jesus that they should send him home. But Jesus told them that first they needed to feed them. But the disciples thought and told Jesus that it would cost way too much money to feed everybody there. Because there was 500 men plus women and children. So Jesus told his disciples to go out and find all the food that the people had brought. But only one person had food. It was a child that had 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread that his mother had packed. Then they brought the child to Jesus, and the child offered his food to Jesus. And Jesus prayed to God over the food, and then started baking the bread and the fish. Then he handed it to the disciples, and then he kept on baking and baking it, but it was still coming out. Then, eventually, when everybody was full, the disciples gathered up all the extra food, and there was 12 baskets left. Now I'm going to read a Bible text out of Matthew, chapter 18. At a time, the disciples came to Jesus, saying, "Whom then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" Then Jesus called a little child to him, and set him in the midst of them, and said, "Assuredly I say to you, Unless you are converted and become as little children, you will by no means enter to the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever humbles himself as a little child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever receives one little child like this in my name receives me. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Later that day, Jesus was teaching his people, and the children were brought to Jesus. Then the disciples tried to push them away from Jesus. I really don't think the disciples were listening when Jesus told them the kids were the greatest. Then Jesus told the disciples to let the children come back, and he put his hand on them and then left. How can people be a Daniel or a David and be courageous for God? First, the parents have to help them read the Bible and pray with them. Then they have to read the Bible and pray on their own in their free time. They also have to try to do what's right every day. Children need and must become active in looking for God. Children can reach parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, aunts, and uncles, and friends like no one else can. They can be alive in the sin-filled world for those around them. Children can give Bible studies, pray for others, listen to their friends, and introduce people to Jesus. Kids can hold evangelistic meetings in their hometowns like I did, then continue leading out in Bible studies. They can pass out literature. They can show Jesus their love to their friends, siblings, neighbors, and family. We kids at this church are blessed because we have so much support from the adults, but it is not like this in most churches. This is why, with the support of my parents, I'm going to be visiting other churches to try to encourage other children to accept their job in spreading the gospel, and encourage parents and adults to become more involved in using kids in the ministry. In closing, I'm going to read some quotes from The Great Controversy, chapter 20, page 367. It was God's will that the tidings of the Savior's coming should be given to the Scandinavian countries, and when the voice of his servants was silenced, he put his spirit upon the children, that the work might be accomplished. Further down in the same paragraph, Mrs. White wrote, Matthew 21, verse 16. Jesus answered, Yea. Have ye never read out of the mouth of the babes and sucklings, thou have perfect praises? As God worked through children at the time of Christ's first advent, so he will work through them in giving this message of the second advent. I hope you will ask God what he wants you to do for him and start working for him today.